our learned obedience in childhood impacts our ability to follow our own path and prioritize our own needs and expectations over those that are placed on us by friends, family, parents, society, you fill in the blank. And I think that this is a really important message. As we approach the new year, I think that this is something that will be really helpful for a lot of people to hold in the back of their mind as they consider, what do I want this next year of my life to look like? What do I want to leave in 2020? What do I want to bring in 2021? It's really powerful to understand our learned behaviors in childhood. It's crucial to setting ourselves free. Wherever your parents fall or your caretakers fall on the spectrum of parents and caretakers, everyone can benefit from objectively reviewing their childhood. As children, we're literally absorbing everything around us, from our parents to our classmates, our teachers, the media we consume, all of it. We are just absorbing machines until about the age of 7. So if you think about that, if we then move through life without ever reflecting on our childhood, reflecting on our learned behaviors, and objectively observing this, then as adults, we're literally 7-year-olds walking around with jobs, families, you fill in the blank, never having made any changes to our behaviors, our belief patterns, our thoughts, etc., unless we actively did so. And the role of obedience is no exception to this. As children, we have patterns of behavior and beliefs that serve us. We're trying to navigate something at home, we're trying to navigate something at school, we're trying to cope, right? And we learn those things as children, and we do them out of survival, how to figure out how to navigate these dynamics that we exist in. In my whole experience, it has been incredibly powerful and liberating to go back and understand what those patterns of behavior and beliefs are and how they impact me in all aspects of my life today as an adult. When we're thinking about obedience, we have a long, drawn-out relationship with it as we become fully functioning, autonomous beings. School is a great example of this. We are told that we have to go to school. We are told that this is the way things are. It will benefit us in the future, blah, blah, blah. I have no issue with that. I'm not saying anything wrong with school. But in this aspect, it's a great example of something most children go through, that you surrender to what the authority figures in your life say is best for you. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with school. I think school is incredible. I think learning is so empowering. It can be school, it can be whatever. These instances from childhood teach us on some level, at some point, to not trust our feelings or understand what they're communicating to us. All feelings are communicators. They are indicators for us that this is working for us, this isn't working for us. And because we're taught to surrender to what the authority figures in our lives are saying is best for us, it teaches us to blame ourselves or rationalize and make excuses for those negative emotions that are actually trying to communicate to us that something isn't working. But what if we were taught as children instead how to explore these feelings in these highly formative years, how to name them, how to greet them as friendly pieces of information, to understand and unpack them, figure out what they're trying to communicate to us, and then make informed decisions and actions as a result. It's a dangerous thing to accept authority or the status quo without questioning it, without thinking for ourselves. Things can always be better and improve in society and in our lives. How will that happen if we teach kids to accept without questioning or thinking for themselves or honoring what their feelings are trying to communicate to them and then acting in alignment with those feelings to resolve a negative emotion? How can we improve ourselves and our lives as fully functioning, autonomous adults if as kids we weren't taught to honor what's in our hearts and what our hearts are trying to tell us? And there comes a point in our growth as children when we know enough of ourselves and our unique needs to know when something's off. And I think that this is something as a society we're embracing a little more. I think we are moving on a shift towards really trying to honor children and honor what they feel is true for themselves rather than just pushing stuff. And that's, I think, a beautiful thing. But as children, if we didn't learn how to understand and communicate and act in response to our unique needs, then we were learning to internalize them, rationalize them, and dismiss them, or prioritize others' expectations for us instead of what we know to be true for ourselves. So as adults, this shows up in many ways. People-pleasing, prioritizing the opinions or approval of others over our own, following the status quo rather than forging our own unique path, rationalizing our frustrations, and meeting the expectations of others rather than our own expectations. And this shows up in all aspects of our lives and can even show up in some more than others. It can show up in our career. Perhaps we feel that we need to have a job or a career that is in alignment with what other people value as interesting or of use or the right thing to do, as being impressive, rather than following what's in our own hearts as what we feel we need to do, we need to explore, we're curious about. It can show up in our friendships and our relationships. Again, this is the people-pleasing and prioritizing others' expectations over our own, and in our opinions and expression of our authentic personality. We can shrink ourselves, we can make ourselves smaller, we can try to have opinions that are quote-unquote acceptable or orthodox or in line with the culture and the status quo, even if our own thoughts and ideas and beliefs are maybe a bit out there or maybe not represented in the general consensus of acceptable.